Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Let's get it started. Today, it is on October 29th, 2023. It's on Sunday and sunny outside. How are you spending Sunday? Are you enjoying the holiday or have you got a work today? Have you got a work today? Or have you got to study today? You've got to study today. Or you are going to spend Sunday doing nothing? It depends on your schedule. It depends on your plan. I would often play video games all day long on Sunday when I was a student, which I regretted. Do you take it for granted that you have water every day? Do you take it for granted that you can have access to water? Do you take it for granted that you can have access to water? Do you take it for granted that you can drink water every day with no trouble? Some students take it for granted that they take perfect score on examinations. Some students take it for granted that they get a perfect score on exams. Some students take it for granted that they get perfect score on tests. I take it for granted that we give our seats to the elderly people in public transportations. I take it for granted that we say thank you after being served. I take it for granted that we say thank you. We say thank you if we get the service. I take it for granted that we say thank you after being served to show appreciation toward them. I take it for granted that we thank the person who have given a service to us. I take it for granted that I say thank you. I thank the person who have given the service to me. I take it for granted that I thank the person who has given the service to me. Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun without problems? Do you take it for granted that the sun circulates? Do you take it for granted that the sun shines forever? Do you take it for granted that the sun rises and sets in every day without any problems? Do you take it for granted that the sun goes down, up, every day? Do you take it for granted that the sun goes down and rises up every day? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun without any problems? Do you take it for granted that the sun rises and sets in every day without any problems? Do you take it for granted that you can have access to water, drinkable water, every day? Do you take it for granted that you can have access to drinkable water every day? Do you take it for granted that you can have access to drinkable water every day? Do you take it for granted that you can have access to drinkable water? I take it for granted that I say thank the person who has given the service to me. I take it for granted that I appreciate the service I've got from somebody. Do you take it for granted that you can have access to food and drinks anytime you want from the convenience store or supermarket? Do you take it for granted that we can breathe in oxygen without any problems outside? Some students take it for granted that they study all day long on holidays. Some students take it for granted that they study whole day on day offs. Some students take it for granted that they study at least 8 hours a day. Some students take it for granted that they study more than 10 hours on holidays in preparation of entering universities, high schools, and so on. Some students take it for granted that they study at least 8 hours on weekends. Some students take it for granted that they study for more than 8 hours. Some students take it for granted that they study more than 8 hours on weekends. Some students take it for granted that they study all day long. Please see to it that all of the doors are locked before you leave the office. See to it that all of the documents are given out to the new employees. See to it that all of the windows are closed before you leave the office. See to it that there are no obstructions on the way to the machines because inspections are expected tomorrow. See to it that there are no obstructions on the approach to the machines. See to it that there are no obstructions to the machines on the corridor. See to it that there are no obstructions on the corridor. See to it that you practice on a daily basis if you want to achieve the goal. See to it that you have a daily effort. If you want to achieve the goal. If you want to achieve the feat. See to it that you maintain your health. See to it that you eat vegetables. See to it that you eat vegetables, fruits. See to it that you eat vegetables. See to it that you fasten your seatbelt before you start your car. And see to it that you never drink alcoholic beverages before driving your car. See to it that you never drink alcoholic beverages before you drive your car. See to it that you prepare before starting your practice. See to it that you should warm your body up and prepare enough before starting your practice. See to it that you prepare and warm your body up enough before beginning your practice. Okay? And see to it that you should practice every day. And of course, put more emphasis on your health. Don't practice too much, but do that every day. See to it that you pile up small efforts every day. And see to it that you should pile up small efforts every day. The small efforts will be stacked up in the end as high as mountains. The small efforts conducted every day will lead you to incredible level in the future. The small efforts stacked up every day will be as high as mountains. See to it that you lock all of the doors. See to it that all of the doors are locked. See to it that you finish all of the textbooks before you take the examinations. See to it that you finish the textbook at least 1 month before the examination so that you can prepare for the examination. In order that you can prepare for the examination. See to it that you finish the textbooks at least 3 months before the examination. See to it that you follow the rules. See to it that you follow the rules. Follow the rules. See to it that you follow the rules. See to it that your projects meet all of the requirements. See to it that your projects follow the rules. See to it that your plan follow the rules. See to it that your projects adhere to the constitution, law, rules, ordinance, and so on. See to it that your projects stick to the constitution, stick with the constitution, adhere to the constitution, follow the constitution. See to it that your projects follow the laws, follow the law, follow the law. See to it that your project Follow the law. 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 See to it that your projects follow the law. Follow the law. And see to it that your previous career meets the requirements described in the description category area. Please say to it that your condition meet the requirements described in the paper. Please say to it that your condition meets the requirements. And say to it that you are fine and with temperature less than 37.5 degrees Celsius. See to it that you are fine and never with temperatures more than 37.5 degrees Celsius before entering the facility. Please say to it that you are not with the temperature more than 37.5 degrees Celsius. Please say to it that you take your temperature before leaving your house and make sure to be under 37.5 degrees Celsius. Please say to it that you take your temperature and avoid leaving your house, avoid taking the examination if you are more than 37.5 degrees Celsius. Please say to it that you take your temperature beforehand and avoid entering the facility if you are more than 37.5 degrees Celsius. See to it that all of the doors are closed. See to it that all of the windows are closed. See to it that you turn off the air conditioner before you fall asleep. See to it that you turn off the air conditioner before you fall asleep, okay? See to it that you set the timer to stop the air conditioner before you fall asleep. See to it that you set the timer to stop the air conditioner before you fall asleep. See to it that you close the doors before you leave the office last. See to it that you submit the documents by the deadline with a lot of leeway. See to it that you hand in the documents to the professor in advance, much in advance, out in advance. See to it that you turn the report in to the professor much beforehand, in advance. See to it that you hand in the report to your professor in advance. Please see to it that you turn the report in to the professor in advance by the deadline. See to it that you turn the report in to the professor much beforehand by the deadline. Please see to it that you hand in the report to the professor in advance before by the deadline. Please see to it that you submit the report to the professor by the deadline in advance. Please see to it that you turn in the report to the professor by the deadline. Please see to it that you hand in the report to the professor by the deadline. Please see to it that you lock all of the doors. Please see to it that you fasten your seatbelt before you start your car. See to it that you fasten your seatbelt before you drive your car. Please see to it that you fasten your seatbelt before you start your car, okay? Please see to it that you fasten your seatbelt before drive your car. Please see to it that you fasten your seatbelt before you start your car. Please see to it that fasten your seatbelt before you start your car. Please see to it that you haven't drunk any alcoholic beverages before you drive your car. See to it that you haven't drunk alcoholic beverages when you drive your car. See to it that you haven't drunk any alcoholic beverages when you drive your car. See to it that you have finished all of the textbooks delivered when you were a first-year student before taking the examinations. See to it that there are no questions you have during the class. See to it that you have no questions in the lesson during the class. Please see to it that you have no questions in the lesson every time. See to it that you have no questions in the class every time. See to it that you have no questions during the class. See to it that you have no questions in the class. See to it that you arrive at the international airport at least 2 hours before the departure. Please see to it that you arrive at the destination much earlier than decided time, because there are many problems might happen. There are many problems might appear suddenly in front of you. So try to see to it that you arrive at a destination much earlier than decided time. See to it that you arrive at the international airport at least 2 hours before the departure time. And see to it that you arrive at the international airport at least 2 hours before. At least 2 hours prior to the departure time. See to it that you arrive at the destination much earlier. See to it that you arrive at the international airport at least 2 hours prior to the departure time. Please see to it that You arrive at the international airport at least 2 hours before the departure time. See to it that you arrive at the international airport 2 hours prior to the departure time. It was on a rainy day when we got the emergency call. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. It was on a rainy day when we got the emergency call from the hospital. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. From the hospital. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. It is my brother that you are going to meet. It was my brother that you met, not me. It was my brother, not me, that you met. It's Hawaii that we went, not Guam. It's Hawaii, not Guam, that we went. It's Hawaii. It was Hawaii, not Guam, that we went to. It was Hawaii, not Guam, that we had paid a visit to. It was Hawaii, not Guam, that we paid a visit to. Would you like to pay a visit to Hawaii too? Would you like to pay a visit to Hawaii too? Would you like to pay a visit? Do you want to pay a visit to Hawaii too? It is knowledge and skills that I want. It is skills and knowledge that I want. I put more importance on obtaining skills and knowledge beyond buying objects such as cars, houses, bags, and so on. I give precedence to obtaining knowledge and skills. I put more value on obtaining knowledge and skills. I put more value on obtaining skills and knowledge. I put more value on skills and knowledge. It is skills and knowledge that I put more value on. It is skills and knowledge that I put the most importance on. It is skills and knowledge that I give the most priority to. It is skills and knowledge that I put the value on. It is skills and knowledge that I put value on. It is skills and knowledge that I put value on. It is skills and knowledge that I put value on. It is skills and knowledge that I put value on. It was almost 10,000 yen that I bought for. It was almost 10,000 yen that I bought the video game for. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to drop in at. Drop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'm asking you to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'm asking you to drop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to drop by. It is Lawson that I'm asking you to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. That I'd like to stop by. That I want to stop by. That I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to drop in at. It is 7-Eleven. It is 7-Eleven that I'd like to stop by. It is Universal Studios Japan that I'd like to visit on Christmas Day. It is Universal Studios Japan that I'd like to visit on Christmas Day. It is Universal Studios Japan that I'd like to visit during on Christmas Day. It was until I became 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine. It wasn't until I became 19 years old at the university that I noticed the effect of caffeine. I realized and surprised at the effect of the caffeine because I could concentrate on my study with the help of caffeine included in the coffee. I had heard about the rumors of the effect of the caffeine before I turned 19, but I didn't drink coffee at all until then. It was It wasn't until I became 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine included in the coffee. It wasn't until I became 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine included in the coffee. I could concentrate on my study, and which also surprised me, stunned me, astonished me. It wasn't until I became 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine, not coffee. It wasn't until I became 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine included in the coffee. It won't be until tomorrow that the result is announced. It won't be until next year that the new version of the product is released. It won't be until December that the end of the year sale starts. It won't be until the end of December or middle of December that the end of the year sale starts. It wasn't until yesterday that I was informed of the news. It wasn't until the day before he retired that he told us of the truth, how he felt. It wasn't until the day before he retired that he told me the truth. It wasn't until the day before he retired that he told me about the truth of how he felt in the environment. It wasn't until 11 o'clock a.m. that he finally got up. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 5 o'clock a.m. that the party finished. It wasn't until 2 o'clock p.m. that he finally got up. It was not until 10 o'clock a.m. he finally got up. It wasn't until I became 19 years old that I noticed the effect of caffeine included in coffee. It wasn't until I turned 19 years old that I noticed the effect of caffeine included in coffee. It wasn't until I turned 19 years old that I noticed the effect of caffeine included in coffee. It won't be until tomorrow that the result is announced. It won't be until mid or end of December that the end of the year sale starts in the store. It won't be until next year that election starts. It won't be until December that the first snow is observed in the area. It won't be until next April that the new shopping mall is open to the public. It won't be until next April that the new shopping mall is open. It won't be until next April that the new shopping mall is open. It won't be until next year, next April, that the new shopping mall is open. It will not be until next April that the new shopping mall is open. It wasn't until 30 minutes later than decided time that he finally appeared, showed up, turned up. It won't be until next April that the new shopping mall is open. It will not be until next April that the new shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. that the shopping mall is open. It wasn't until 2 o'clock a.m. that he came home. It wasn't until 1 o'clock a.m. that he finally got home. It wasn't until 1 o'clock a.m. that he finally got home. It wasn't until 1 o'clock a.m. that he finally got home. It wasn't until he became 25 years old that he got interested in mathematics. It wasn't until 1 o'clock a.m. that he finally got home. It was not until 1 o'clock a.m. that he finally got home. It was not until 1 o'clock a.m. that he finally got home. It wasn't until yesterday that I was informed of the information. It wasn't until yesterday that I was informed of the serious situation. It wasn't until yesterday that I was notified of the truth. It won't be until you turn 20 years old that you can drink alcoholic beverage in Japan as of now. It won't be until you become 20 years old that you can drink alcoholic beverages in Japan as of now. It won't be until you turn 20 years old that you can drink alcoholic beverages in Japan. It won't be until you become 20 years old that you can drink alcoholic beverages in Japan. It won't be until you become 20 years old that you can drink alcoholic beverages in Japan. Now, as of now. It wasn't until yesterday that I was informed of the information. It wasn't until I turned 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine included in the coffee. It wasn't until I turned 19 years old that I noticed the effect of the caffeine included in coffee. It won't be until next April that the new shopping mall is open. It won't be until 9 o'clock a.m. the shopping mall is open. It was not long before my name was called. It wasn't very long before my name was called at the hospital. It wasn't very long before my name was called. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bicycle when I was a kid. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bicycle. It wasn't very long before I got the technique of how to take the bicycle. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bike. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bike, ride the bike. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bike when I was a kid. I was super fast to master to ride the bike. It won't be long before the ambulance comes. It won't be long before the taxi comes. It won't be long before the taxi comes. It won't be very long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives. 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 It won't be long before taxi arrives. It won't be long before the 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 taxi arrives. It is said that it won't be very long before the cashier will be replaced by machines. As new workforce. It is said that it won't be long before the cashiers are replaced by machines as new workforce. It won't be long before machines replace the cashier as new workforce. It won't be long before machines replace the cashier as new workforce. It will not be long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It will not be long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before they arrive here. It won't be long before they arrive here, so prepare for that. It won't be very long before they arrive here. It won't be very long before they arrive here. It won't be very long before the flight arrives here. It won't be long before the flight arrives here. It won't be long before the flight lands here, lands at the international airport. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It won't be very long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It will not be long before the plane takes off. It won't be very long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It won't be long before the plane takes off. It will not be long before they arrive here. It will not be long before the taxi we have called arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It will not be long. It will not be long before the taxi arrives here. It will not be long before the taxi arrives here. It will not be long before the ambulance arrives here. It was not long before I mastered how to take the bike when I was a kid. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bike. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bike. It will not be very long before the ambulance comes. It will not be very long before the ambulance comes. It will not be very long before the taxi arrives here. It will not be very long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be very long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It won't be very long before the flight arrives here. It won't be long before they arrive here. It won't be very long before the flight takes off. It won't be long before the flight takes off. It won't be long. It won't be long before the taxi arrives here. It will not be long before our friends arrive here. It won't be long before the sun sets in. It will not be long before the sun sets in. It was not long before I mastered how to take the bike. It wasn't very long before I mastered how to take the bike. It wasn't very long before my name was called at the hospital. I just waited for 2 or 3 minutes. It was not long before my name was called at the hospital. It wasn't long before the company succeeded in the business. It wasn't very long before the venture succeeded in that field. It wasn't very long before the venture succeeded in the field. It wasn't long before he became popular. It wasn't very long before he became popular. It is no wonder that he is sleeping during the class. Everybody knows it. It is a kind of his routine. It is no wonder that he is sleeping during the class. It is a kind of his routine. He is resting his body during the class to practice baseball a lot later. It is no wonder that he got into the car accident because he drank alcoholic beverages before he drove his car. It is no wonder he is angry at him. Everybody will get mad at him with the rude attitude. It is no wonder no one wants to talk to him. It is no wonder nobody buys a product with exorbitant price. It is no wonder that nobody buys the product with exorbitant price. It is no wonder that he is sleeping during the class all day long. It is no wonder that he eats 2 sets of the menu for lunch. It is no wonder that he eats 1 kilogram of rice every day. It is no wonder that I study more than 8 hours on a daily basis. It is no wonder you have caught a cold, because you slept with the air conditioner on. It is no wonder you have caught a cold. You never kept you warm after coming out of the bathroom. It is no wonder that you have caught a cold. You never listened to me and my advice. You never kept you warm after coming out of the bathroom. Do you take it for granted that you can have access to drinkable water every day? Do you take it for granted that the sun rises and sets in? Do you take it for granted that the sun goes up and down? Do you take it for granted that the sun rises and sets in every day? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun without any problems? Around the sun. Do you take it for granted that the sun sets in? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun, around the sun, around the sun, around the sun? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun, around the sun, around the sun? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun, around the sun? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun? Do you take it for granted that the earth goes around the sun? It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. It was on a rainy day that we got the emergency call from the hospital. And thank you for your help, but I've decided not to count on anybody. I've decided not to turn to anybody. I've decided to rely on anybody. I just accept your help and feelings. I'll manage it somehow. I'll manage it somehow. I'll see to it. I'll see to it. Okay, I'll see to it. Don't forget to submit your report by the deadline. I'll see to it. I'll see to it. I'll see to it. Don't forget to turn off all of the switches before you leave the office. I'll see to it. Don't forget to turn your report in by the deadline. I'll see to it. Don't make any mistakes. I'll see to it. Make sure to have all of the documents needed for the orientation. I'll see to it. Don't forget to turn it in to the Windows seat. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Don't forget to submit it by the deadline. Don't forget to turn it in. Hand it in. Turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Don't forget to submit it by the deadline. Don't forget to hand it in by the deadline. Don't forget to turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in. Okay, I'll see to it. I'll see to it. See to it. See to it. Please see to it that you lock all of the doors. See to it that you lock all of the doors. See to it that you turn the report in by the deadline. See to it that you never drink alcoholic beverages before you start your car. Okay, I'll see to it. I'll see to it. Thanks. I'll see to it. See to it. See to it. See to it. Don't be late for the workplace. Sit it. I'll sit it. Don't be late for the destination. I'll sit it. Don't be late for the international airport. I'll sit it. 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 Thanks. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. Thank you. Don't mention it. I appreciate it. Don't mention it. I appreciate it. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. You're welcome. Pleasure. My pleasure. Don't mention it. You are welcome. My pleasure. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Don't mention it. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Don't mention it. Appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. I really appreciate it. Don't mention it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Don't mention it. You're welcome. My pleasure. I'd love to. Please see to it that you arrive at the destination much earlier. Please see to it that you arrive at the international airport 2 hours prior to the flight time. Please see to it that you lock all of the doors before you leave the office. Please see to it that you arrive at the international airport 2 hours prior to the departure time, okay? Okay, I'll see to it. Please arrive at the destination 2 hours prior to the the departure time. Okay, I'll see to it. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Okay, I'll see to it. Don't forget to turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in by the deadline. Okay, I'll see to it. I really appreciate your help. Thank you. I really appreciate your help. Without your help, I couldn't have done this. Thank you. Don't mention it. 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 Some candidates pretend to be nice only when it is job interview. Some candidates pretend to be very nice and enthusiastic in front of the interviewers at a job interview. Some candidates pretend to be very nice, kind, enthusiastic at the job interview, and they change their attitude, personality at all after being accepted, which is super terrible, isn't it? Some job interviewees pretend to be very nice, kind, accommodating, considerate, and enthusiastic about the job, about the position, only during the job interviews. Some candidates, some job interviewees pretend to be accommodating, kind, considerate, and enthusiastic about the position during the job interview. The kid pretended that he had nothing to do with the occasion, event, incident. The kid is pretending that he is nothing to do with the incident. The suspect pretends to be innocent. When something important is around, I tend to be nervous. When something important is around, I am inclined to be nervous a lot. When something important, for example, a big event in which I have to perform, is around, I am apt to be nervous. Whenever a big event in which I have to perform is around, I am apt to be nervous. I envy those who can be enthusiastic about what they are not interested in, because I cannot. I can only be enthusiastic about the subjects I am interested in. I can only be enthusiastic about the subjects I am interested in. So I really envy and pay respect to those who can be enthusiastic about the subjects they are not interested in. Enthusiastic, 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 enthusiastic. I know a student who was always with all of the textbooks close at hand. Is your grandparents' house located close at hand from your house? Is your grandparents' house located nearby, close at hand from your house? Is your grandparents' house located close at hand from your house? Close at hand from your house. Is your grandparents' house located nearby, close at hand from your house? Is your grandparents' house located close at hand from your house? I wish Hawaii were located around. I wish many shops were located around my office. I wish many shops were located around. I wish many shops were located nearby, around. I wish many shops were located around. I wish many shops were around. I hope I wish many shops were around. If only many restaurants were around. If only there were many selections of restaurants. If I were you, I would take her out for a date. If I were you, I would take her out. His attitude changes when his boss is around. His attitude changes when his boss is around. His attitude changes when his boss is around. Are you this kind of person who cannot concentrate on your work when distractions are around, such as smartphone, PC, music, and so on? Are you this kind of person who cannot concentrate on duty or study when distractions such as smartphone, TV, PC are around? Some evil employees are thinking of only being promoted. Only wicked employees only think of being promoted and money. Some wicked employees only think of being promoted and money. Some wicked employees only think of being promoted and get higher salaries. To my surprise, I was promoted to the section in chief. To my surprise and everybody, I was promoted to the section in chief. To everyone's surprise, I got promoted to the general manager of the department. To everyone's surprise, I got promoted to the vice president of the company. I don't want you to work at the expense of your health. I don't want my parents to work at the expense of their health. I wouldn't like my parents to work at the expense of their health. I wouldn't like my parents to work at the expense of their health, at the cost of health, at the cost of their health. At the sacrifice of their health. I wouldn't like my parents to work at the expense of their health. I wouldn't like my parents to work at the expense of their health. I wouldn't like my parents to work at the expense of their health. I don't want my parents to work at the expense of their health. I don't want my parents to work at the expense of their health. I don't want you to work at the expense of your health. I wouldn't like you to work at the expense of your health. I wouldn't like you to work at the expense of your health. The artist devoted all of his life to his music at the expense of his health. The artist devoted everything to his music at the expense of his health. The artist devoted everything to his art at the expense of other things. People should be ashamed of not challenging. I am ashamed of myself not challenging at all when I was in my teens. I should be ashamed of myself for not challenging at all when I was in my teens. Don't be ashamed of making mistakes. Don't be ashamed of making mistakes. We shouldn't be ashamed of making mistakes. Making mistakes will make us approach our success nearer and nearer. Don't be ashamed of making mistakes. Don't be ashamed of being mistakes. Don't be ashamed of making mistakes. Don't be ashamed of making a mistake. Making a mistake. Are you ashamed of making a mistake? Are you ashamed of making a mistake? Never be ashamed of making a mistake. Don't be ashamed of making a mistake. Don't be ashamed of making a mistake. Don't be ashamed of making a mistake. Are you ashamed of making a mistake? Are you ashamed of making a mistake? Are you ashamed of making a mistake? Are you ashamed of making mistakes? Some people must be ashamed of delivering a speech in public. Some people must be ashamed of delivering a speech in front of people. Some people must be ashamed of giving a presentation in front of people. Some people could be ashamed of giving a presentation in front of people. Are you ashamed of delivering a speech in public? Are you ashamed of giving a presentation in front of people? Are you ashamed of giving a presentation in front of the people? Are you ashamed of singing at the karaoke? Are you ashamed of singing in front of people at karaoke? Are you ashamed of performing in front of people? Are you ashamed of making a speech in front of people? I hope disaster will set in. I hope the war will set in. I hope the war will not set in. I hope the fight between the two students will not set in. I hope disaster will not set in. I hope the war will not set in. Natural disaster will not set in. As the recession set in, more and more people started to go out of the country for better salaries. Unfortunately, restructuring might set in more companies. More restructuring might set in. Restructuring might set in more companies. With time, restructuring might set in more companies. Restructuring seems to set in more companies with time, because more and more jobs are said to be replaced by robots, machines, and AIs. I hope the war will not set in. The war set in 1939. Many wars set in the warring period in Japan, end of 16th century. I hope no natural disasters set in. I hope no natural disasters will set in. I hope natural disasters will not set in. I hope natural disasters will not set in. I hope natural disasters will not set in. Temporary employees should be treated fairly. If the temporary workers do the same duty as a full-time worker, they should be treated fairly, both economically. Are you afraid of being laid off? Some employees cannot confront their bosses even if it is wrong, for fear of being laid off. Some employees cannot confront their bosses for fear of being laid off. Some employees are afraid of being laid off and cannot confront their bosses even it is wrong. I saw many cars entering going into the facility, one after another. Many black-colored fancy cars were seen going into the facility, one after another. I saw many black-colored fancy cars going into the facility, one after another, 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 one after another. One after another, 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 one by one after another. one after another, one after another, one after another. I saw many black-colored fancy cars entering the facility, one after another. Many black-colored fancy cars were seen going into the premises, one after another. Nowadays, letting go of unwanted things to make space is in. Nowadays, removing unwanted things in order to make space both mentally and physically is catching on. Nowadays, letting go of unwanted things which are taking up much space is catching on. Nowadays, letting go of the things, unwanted things, which we never used for a long time, is catching on. Nowadays, letting go of the things we haven't used for a long time, in order to make space both mentally and physically, is catching on. Is out of work bad thing or good thing? We usually envy those with a lot of money without working. Do you envy those who have a lot of money out of work? Can you understand the feelings of those out of work? Can you understand the feelings of those out of work? Excuse me, can I ask if you are out of work? Excuse me, can I ask if you are out of work? Out of work. The number of people who are out of work has been decreasing or increasing. The number of people who are out of work both increase and decrease depending on the year. Thanks to the stimulus policy, the number of people who are out of work has been decreasing. Having an operation on the patient is against your boss's order, will. Sometimes my body moves against my will. Some parts of my body sometimes cannot help moving against my will. Some parts of my body move against my will. Some bad words can come out of my mouth against my will. Rude words or phrases can come out of my mouth against my will. Some parts of my body can move against my will. Neither you nor I am responsible for that. Neither you nor I am responsible for that. Neither you nor I am responsible for that. I as well as you am responsible for that. I as well as you am responsible for that. You as well as me are responsible for that. You as well as me are responsible for that. Neither you nor I am responsible for that. Whenever I fall into pessimistic feeling, I resort to famous phrases left by famous figures in the past, from the past. Whenever I've gotten pessimistic, I tend to resort to refer to the famous encouraging messages left by famous figures from the past. Whenever I've gotten pessimistic, I am inclined to refer to the famous encouraging messages left by famous figures from the past. Some artists make use of the pessimistic feelings for their creation of their arts. Artists should take advantage of the pessimistic feelings in order to create their own works. The artist make the most of her pessimistic feelings in order to create the masterpiece. The artist made use of her pessimistic feelings in order to create what is best-selling book now. The artist made the most of his pessimistic feelings in an attempt to create what is best-selling now. The artist made the most of her pessimistic feelings in a bid to create what is selling well now. Pessimistic. Don't try to be pessimistic. I try not to be pessimistic, but see the bright side. I try not to be pessimistic, but see the optimistic side. We can be both pessimistic and optimistic. We can be both pessimistic and optimistic. Pessimistic. 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 Pessimistic or optimistic. We can be both pessimistic and optimistic. I don't know the baseball player was pessimistic very much when he was criticized from others. I don't know the baseball player had been pessimistic when he was criticized from others. I don't know the baseball player got pessimistic when he was criticized from others. I don't know the famous baseball player got pessimistic when he was criticized from others. We can be both pessimistic and optimistic. Pessimistic. Don't be pessimistic, but see the optimistic side. Don't get pessimistic, but see the brighter and optimistic side. Don't get pessimistic, but see the brighter and optimistic side. I'm worried about my future. I, as well as you, am worried about my future. I, as well as you, am worried about future. I, as well as you, am worried for the future. I am worried about the future. I've been worried about the future. I've been worried for the future. I have been worried about my future. I have been worried about my future. We are worried about our future. That's why we save money, set aside money, put aside money. We are worried about the future. So that's why we save money. We keep money. We put aside money. Put aside money. Set aside money. I'm worried about my future. I am worried about my future. I am worried about my future. If it were not for water, we could not live. Were it not for water, we could not live. If it had not been water, we could not have lived. Had it not been for water, we could not have lived. If I was skillful at playing the musical instrument as good as you, I would be a professional player now. If I were you, I wouldn't have said such a rude thing to her. I would never got hurt by such a minor criticism before, but now. I would never have tried that if I didn't get invitation from her. If I hadn't got the invitation from her, I wouldn't have challenged it. I wouldn't have challenged it. If I hadn't got the invitation from her, I wouldn't have challenged it. If I hadn't got the invitation from her, I wouldn't have challenged it. If I hadn't got the invitation from her, I wouldn't have done that. If I were you, I would have been concerned about the safety of my son. If I were you, if I were in the same situation as you, I would also have been concerned about her. If I had been in the same situation as you, I would also have been concerned about her. If I had been in the same situation as you, I would also have been concerned about her as well. This one as well, as well. This one as well, as well. As well. If I had been in the same situation as you, a mother of the daughter, I would also have been concerned about her until she got home. If I had been in the same situation as you, as the mother of the daughter, I would also have been concerned about her safety until she got home. If I had been in the same situation as you, as the mother of the daughter, I would also have been concerned about her until she got home. Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you!